All right, so let's talk about the vCenter server high availability. So now the requirement for the high availability will be we needed two NICs at least. So one will be used for the management and another one will be used for the HA heartbeats. And we have to make sure that we have a properly configured DNS server, and these are the only two requirements. The other requirement is that we have to make sure that vCenter server has their unique host name. So by default, when you install the vCenter server, the host name will be localhost. So we have to make sure that we change that name to a proper DNS name, which will be resolvable by our DNS server. Now coming to the high availability, one is the management, the other one will be the high availability. So when you add an additional link to the vCenter server, we have to provide an IP address manually, or you can take the IP address via the DHCP. So you do have two options. So let me get the ESXi first, where my both the vCenter servers are installed. So you can see that in the virtual machine, both the vCenter 1 and vCenter 2 are installed. So if I click on that one, and I should see two NICs, and you can see one of the address is .190, sorry, 99. That will be able to access the management network, that is the web interface. And the other NIC has the 192.168.1.45 address through which we can, the high availability will be able to communicate. Next, if I click on that one, and don't see the host name here, so that's fine. So let me go to the vCenter server 2, and you see that in the vCenter server 2 I have only one IP address showing here. So if I click on edit, and here you see that I do have two NICs, not a problem, but it is only detecting one, so we will fix that one also. Now coming to the first thing, so we will go to vCenter server 1 and we will say console and open in a new tab. We will press F2, press once again F2, and enter the password. And now we will go to configure management network. And here you see that IP configuration. This is the management one. We don't have to change that one. But if I go to the DNS configuration, if I click on that one, and you see that my DNS is currently pointing to .1, that is correct, but I will say point it to 0.100. And here I will say vc1.sysable.com.au. Now before I press enter, what I will do is that I will make sure that on my DNS server I do have that host name configured. So let me take the access to the DNS center. That okay, it is not trying to connect. So once we make sure that that DNS name is resolvable, then we can press enter and we can save that config. So we have to pretty much make sure that one. Okay, for now I will press that enter because I have already created. As far as I know, I will check it later on when I have access to that one. That should be all right. So press enter and press escape and press yes. So it will save that config now. All right, so the configuration is been now saved. That's all we need to do with this one. So now coming to the vCenter server 2 now. So vCenter server 2 has two NICs, but the IP address we are able to see only one. So we have to make sure that we configure the what do we say, proper IP address and everything before we proceed for vCenter Server 2. All right. Now I can see that the IP address is 192.168.1.100. So what I will do, I will go to the management of that one. Now we do have two different type of access to vCenter Server. One will give you access to the web interface where we will create our data center cluster, add the host and everything. Another one will give you the access to the management, that is 192.168.1.100 on port number 5480. Right, so I will say administrator at vsphere.local, and I will log in into this one. And now this is the management. This is where you can go to your networking now, and you can see that you do have NIC 0 and NIC 1, and it is also reserved for vCHA high availability. So if I click on edit, I will select the NIC 1, which is unconfigured. Click on next, and if I expand this one, so you do have an ability to change to manual IP address. You can configure it, but once I click on that one, it will show the black screen, so it doesn't allow me to do it. So that's why I will keep it automatically get it from the DHCP server. Click on next. And if you see that NIC 1, it is going to be enabled. IPv6 will be disabled. So click on finish, and that should fix the problem now. So once that has been resolved, you see that I got the IP address now, that is number 46. So if I go back to my VC2, and if I just do a refresh or refresh of this page, that should be updated now, NIC 1. So I'm not seeing over here, but just give it some time and it will update over here like this. And if I go to this one, VC2, it will also show you the two NIC. Now to confirm whether it is working or not, so if I go to my CMD, if I ping 192.168.1.46, yes, I'm able to reach. So that means it has assigned the IP address. The only thing is that ESXi will take time to note it down. Now let's go to the network management interface. So networking, that is been done. So if you go to the summary over here, you will see what are the alerts, overall health. So currently it is showing that the appliance is running low on memory. That's fine. And if I go to the monitor, this is where you can monitor your CPU memory of the vCenter server disk and the network. So these are the different hard disks which is been assigned attached to it, and the network if you have any errors or anything, it will show up in a graph, or also you can see it for the last 1 year day or something. For databases, again it will show you the health of the databases. Now coming to the access, you see that I have enabled the SSH to log in. So if you want to enable disable from here also you can do it, or via the console itself you can do it. Networking firewall, again, if you want to add a firewall rule for the particular NICs, you can select the particular NIC, provide the IP address, provide the subnet, and you can say that you want to, what do we say, accept or reject the connection to that particular IP address or subnet. Next, time synchronization, which is already been done by the ESXi host, so we don't worry about it. So this is the time zone. I'm least worried about it, so don't. For the particular lab, for this particular lab, I'm not even worried. But in the production, you need to change the time zone to the proper one. Services, these are the different services which are currently running for. That means you can say these are the different services which are required to run the vCenter server. For the update, so if you do have any update, it will show up over here, or if you have already done any update in the past, it will show up in the history. Syslog server, again, if you do have a syslog server, you can connect to the syslog server, click on configure, provide the IP address, provide the protocol. Usually it will be UDP, and provide the port number. Now backup, I am not taking any backup right now. If you like, you can go ahead and take the backup, or you can schedule the backup, click on configure, or you can provide that particular FTP server where you want to get your backup to be downloaded. You can provide your username and password, and you can, if you want to encrypt your backup, you can provide your encrypted password. Database health check details, if you want to include in that one, click on enable. And number of backups to be retained, you can retain all backups, or you want to retain only few of the backups. So if you say few of the backups means whenever it is updating, it will make sure that that is deleted. All right, so that's all with the management one. If you go to the actions, you can't do much over here. And if you go to the administrator, you have only logout option, nothing else. So I will click on logout over here. Now I will go to the VC2. I will go to the new tab. So if you remember that I have to change the DNS server and the host name, which I was unable to change it from the management. I will show you the management one more time. That should be HTTPS 192.168.1.100 on 5480. Okay, that should be administrator at, because in the management it does shows the local host, but it will not give me an option to what do we say, change that name of the local host. So that's why I have to go to the console in order to change it. Configure management network. I will go to the DNS and I will say that it should be 100 and this should be vc2.com.au. Escape, yes, and the network setting should be saved. So all done now. So we are ready to go ahead and configure the high availability. So I will go to my vCenter server 1, that should be 1.99. I will log in into that one. All right, so once we logged into that one, you see that currently I don't have anything. So what I will do, I will create the new data center that should be DC1. And after that, I will create one more cluster in that one that should be CLU1. And I will not enable any of those ones. So click on OK. And after that, I will click on add host. So I will add the East vCenter servers. That should be 101. Add host, use the same credential. That should be 192.168.1.2. So I've currently installed everything as a fresh install. Click on accept the certificate, click on next and click on finish. So let those hosts be added first and I will finish up the cluster setup. And also, if you remember that my vCenter server 2 IP address was 192.168.1.200, so I need to change my DNS to, sorry, 192.168.1.100. So I have to change my DNS to 200. So let's go ahead and change that DNS settings also, because I did not realize that it was an overlapping. Configure management network, go to the DNS and just change it to 200, escape and yes. Okay, settings were changed, that's okay. I will go to vCenter server 1 also and I will change that one. DNS, I will say that should be 200, escape and yes. should be good. Now I will take a remote PC to my, what do we say, DNS server. That should be admin. Okay. So it is trying to connect to that my DNS server. Once connected, I will go ahead and check the DNS names just to make sure that it is resolving. And after that, I have added the two of the hosts which are still in maintenance. So I will click on configure over here. I will complete the cluster. So I will configure the networking later on. Click on next, click on next, click on finish. So that should finish the clustering now. And after that, I should be all good to go with the configuration of high availability. So before that, I will go to the DNS and I will go to this one, forward zone, and okay, VC1, I do have a different IP address, so I will change it to 99. And VC2, I have a different IP address, I will change it to 100. So that's been updated. So my DNS server is all set to go. Everything is all good. Cluster has been ready. So let's go ahead and configure the high availability. So I will click on this one, go to the configure and go to the vCenter's high availability. Click on setup and vCenter high availability. I will enter the 92.168.1.100. That should be administrator at sphere.local and password should be this one. Click on next. It should give the certificate. Click on yes. Active node is not managed by the management vCenter server. Let me check with the first 199. No. I will say I do not have that one. Click on next. Let's see. NIC 1 could not be found on the active node. Add a second NIC to the NIC active node for the high availability. So it is not able to find that one, NIC 1. But I do have both of them. Here it is also detecting now. Here it is also detecting now. It is not detecting NIC 1. Okay. Active node is not managed by the management. We send the server provided. Right, so let me go ahead and activate the high availability on this one. So I will click on edit. I will say enable fully automated, enable predictive DRS. Click on OK. So everything should be good now. vSphere high availability is okay. That was a DRS, so I will just turn it off. Not this one. I need the high availability, so I will click on this one. On, click on OK. Don't worry about it. So it is turning on. So let that finish. Right, that's been completed. So if I go back to my vCenter server and if I configure over here, you can see that it says create a vCenter HA network. This is a private network, must be separate from the management network. So that might be the issue. It is not allowing me to connect it. So let me do one thing. I will connect it to 192.168.1.46. That is what my vCenter server 2 has got it. And I will say that administrator at sphere.local. So I might be connecting to the management one, so that's why it might not be allowing me. Yeah, it is doing the same thing for me. So that might be the reason. So because if I go back, it should be separated from the management network. So the network should be a different one. But since I don't have access to that one, let me see if I can, because on the IP config, that is the only thing I am getting, and troubleshoots, nothing else. Let me go back to the management and see if I am able to make any changes or not, because whenever I try to make the changes, it is giving me a black screen. So let me go back to the networking. So I need to change this 145 to something. Yeah, that's what the problem is. So it is not allowing me to change it. So I need to check how I can change it via CLI. So how to change the nick. Okay, VMware share VMware config.net after. So let me open this one and I will get a partition to that one so that we can follow that guide. So I will say root. All right, so execute the following command, that is opt, copy from here, and it will show that main menu. What do you want to do? ETH1, allocate IP address allocation for ETH1. I will select 7, enter. Configure IPv6 address, no by default. IPv4, yes. Static use instead of static IP address. Use a DHCP for server instead of a static IP address, no. What is the static IP address? That should be 10.1.1.99/24. 10.1.1.99. Subnet mask, I will keep it as the same. And I will say yes, that is correct. So if that changes that one, that should be very good because that will be the, okay, I will say 0, show the current configuration. And current configuration, yep, it has been changed. Now I will Control C, not working. Okay, number one, exit the program. That's it. Okay, that was good to know that CLI. So I have to do the same thing for the another partition. That should be 192.168.1.100. And I will say root hash. Okay, come back here. I will copy the same thing. Next, I do have number 7. So configure IPv6, no. Configure IPv4, yes, no. That should be 10.1.1.100. Subnet marks is that one. Is this configuration correct? Yes. And after that, I will check for the config. And if I says 0 by default, which is this one now. Okay, I will exit the program and exit out. All right, so let me go back to the vCenter server and try to check if that is been updated. Not yet. I think that will take time. Yep, that is been updated now. It is been updated now. And if I go to the management now, if I do a refresh, that should be changed to the 10.10.1.99. That's fantastic. Okay, so it's good to know that in the via Google we have able to fix it. That's all good. And now I will do a refresh. And now I will click on the high availability. Now this time I will say 10.10.1.100 and that should be administrator at local. This time it should allow me. No, no, it's not managed by the vCenter server. Alright, so finally I got the solution for that one. So what we have to do is that we have to, I am currently on the ESXi machine where my both the vCenter servers are installed over here. And if I go to networking, I created a new port group. And to that port group, what I did was I just assigned secondary adapter to that particular port group, entirely a different port group. That's it. I did nothing much. I have just added a port group and assigned the NIC2 to the port group. And after that, if I go to the my vCenter server, the primary one, click on configure, click on vCenter server HA, and now you see that it has taken me directly to the resource one. So let's select the port group, this one. Select the vCenter server high availability network. That is the port group I have selected. Automatically create clones for passive and witness nodes. So we are selecting automatically. And you see that it is now detecting all the clusters and machines and everything. I just added this one for to check if that makes any difference, but it did not make any. So I just need to create a new port group and assign my NIC2 second adapter to that particular port group, and after that I directly got this option over here now. So if I click on set up this one, so this is what I got. So I will just click on next. I just don't want to make any more changes. So click on next, or okay, it is asking me to edit this one. V1 passive to DC1, click on next, select the cluster one. Selected cluster is not in DRS mode. Please select the specific host within the cluster. So I will select this one. I'll click on cancel first. So now coming to the 1.99 one, this is the primary. Passive node for the passive heartbeats. So I just need to configure this one. So it is asking me what is the location, what is the host, what is the network where HA availability will be done. So I will click on edit, select the data center, expand the cluster, select the particular host, select the data store for that host, and I will select the HA. For management NIC, I will select the VM network, the default one. For the HA, I will select the HA one. Click on next, which is not accessible. Strange. Again, it is giving me some problems. Okay, so let me see if an edit. Okay, discover virtual machines, click on next. or I will select this one, the one which I have added, my actual ESXi where my which vCenter server is added. So let me see if that, I will select the data store, select this one, to the management will be this one, HNIC will be this one. Okay, that's working. So adding that one makes a little bit good. So if I click on finish, so doing the same thing, I will do the same thing. I will go to the data center one, go to the 34 one, select the data store and select the HA adapter, that should be CHA. Click on next and finish. Alright, so I added the ESXi machine where both the vCenter servers are installed. So I think that has benefited me. So click on next. And now it is asking for your IPv4 settings. So witness node, I will say passive node, that should be 10.1.1.101, and I will say this one should be 10.10.1.100 to 55.0. That's it. Click on finish, and now it is configuring the vCenter server high availability now. Finally. So let's recap what things we have done is that the first things what I did was like adding my actual ESXi where my both the vCenter servers are installed. I have added to the vCenter server, that is 192.168.1.99. So before adding this host to my vCenter server, I have created a port group stating vCHA assigned to the default switch, that is vSwitch 0. That's it. And after that, I set to my vCenter server 1 NIC1 assigned to vCHA port group and vCenter server 2 NIC1 to the vCenter server CHA port group. That's it. And after that, I have configured the vCenter server high availability. In that one, it says that who is the passive node. So I made the active node as the active plus passive, both of them. And it asks me for the witness node, which I have made it the secondary vCenter server as the passive one. So the active and the passive will be acting as 192.168.1.99. Secondary will be acting as 192.168.1.100. And also in the IPv4 settings for this particular active and passive, for the active 10.1.1.99 I have already given, and for the passive I have given 10.1.1.101, and for the witness one we have already assigned, that is 10.1.1.100. That's it. These are the configuration which I have done. So let me recap that one. So go to the host, go to the storage first, click on add group, selected the created an add group with the vCHA group, and it is been assigned to the vSwitch 0. Click on cancel. Once that is been assigned, I made sure that VC1 is being assigned to that particular port group, because on this sneak I'm going to configure the high availability, and on the vCenter server 2 I did the same thing, configuring this high availability, and after that everything what we have done, it's already over here. Remove the vCenter HA to destroy the current cluster configuration and set up the, so I will click. So that's what the process is. That's how you are going to configure, and you see that it is not configuring because of the required space. So let me remove that one. Click on OK. So let me remove the high availability and I will reconfigure that high availability now. So here what I will do this time is that I will select the data center, the same thing, cluster will be the same, but I will select the host 34. This time I will select the VC1 because you see that I do have this much of free, free space. So click on next. and I will select the management as VM network and the high availability as vCHA. Click on next and finish. And for the that is for the active, this is for the passive. Both of them are the same machines. Coming to the witness one, which will be the secondary one, I will select next and I will select this one, and here I will select the VC2 storage. Click on next. Here I will select the vCHA adapter. Click on next and finish. Click on next. And here I will do the same thing. This is the active one. This is the passive one, that is 1.1.101. I'm not interested in the default gateway, and now 10.1.1.100. That's it. Click on finish. So hopefully this time it should configure, because we do have a lot of space in the data store. So wait until that is been configuring. And now you see that it is now creating one virtual machine, that is VC1 passive. So, and now you see that passive and witnesses everything it is trying to configure now. So what I think it is happening here is that it is asking me for the active node, and it is also asking me for the passive node, and it is also asking me for the witness node. So active and passive, I have made only one server. vCenter server 1 as is active and passive, and I have made the witness as a vCenter server 2. So that means the passive one is active and the passive, since both of them are the same one, so they are going to monitor the heartbeats. And if something happens, the witness one will take over the vCenter server high availability. So that's what it is, the concept is. So now you can say that it is still trying to load up over here. Over here you can see that 199 is up, and the passive one is still unavailable. High availability witness one is unavailable, and the IPv4 settings and the VM settings, these are the settings over here. This is the active one. So if I go back to my passive one and do a refresh, so if I go to configure high availability, so let me see what does it shows up over here. Okay, it is not showing me anything over here. So it is still going on over here, copying the virtual machine files. It is taking time. So let that finish. So basically we should see everything as up and running. Right, so I think it might take a little bit time to complete. So I will stop the video. Alright, so after installing and configuring everything, it again have given me the error for the vCenter server high availability. But again, if you see on the left hand side, it has already get the passive virtual machine and the witness one running up and running machine, so which will be helping in to monitor that one. All right, so if I go back here and if I say to high availability, so it is asking me to remove and do the same thing again. Again, as I said that I do have the running in the lab environment, so that's why I'm encountering this one. But usually we need to plan everything separately, like how I realize that we need to have a different port group or a different switch for that one in order to communicate the high availability heartbeat, and the NIC should be connected to those things. So pretty much that is the configuration, and after that you should be able to see that everything is up and up and up, and usually the 90% everything went up. The last part has been I encountered that the 1.100 DSSH was not enabled on that one, so that's the reason it is been, what do we say, declined. The high availability did not complete. But pretty much this is what the configuration should be, and this is how it looks like. So I hope this was informative for you, and thank you.